You're very welcome back. Now, tomorrow, the 10th of October, marks World Mental Health Day, with this year's theme focusing on equality for everyone.
Now, our next guest has grown a deep-rooted connection to the mental health charity Pieta House after losing her cousin to suicide last year, and is now determined to talk about the importance of mental health. Fashion and lifestyle blogger Louise Cooney joins us this morning, along with Lee Kenny, Pieta House Regional Manager for Greater Dublin. Good morning to you both, Good morning, ladies.
Thank you for joining us. Louise, we might come to you first because your journey to realising the wonderful work that Pieta House do is a sad one, and maybe you'll explain that to viewers in terms of your involvement, Louise.
Yeah, so I lost my cousin to suicide last year, and when I came back from New York in March, Pieta reached out to me. All of their fundraisers are cancelled. They're hugely down on the funds they need to keep their centres open, to keep the text lines open, the phone lines open, and now they're virtual lines, which is amazing that they've been able to launch those because we need them. You know, everything is so online at the moment, and God, all the changes we've been through this year, myself included, but people have lost family members, people have lost their jobs. We really just need to kind of look after ourselves and keep the conversations going and look after our mental health. So you got involved, Louise, and you got involved to the point where by the time you'd finished fundraising, you handed over a cheque for €90,000 to Pieta House. What did you do to raise the money? Yeah. What were your ideas? So I was actually isolating at the time. I had come back from New York and I was sitting in the house, you know, trying to pass time, trying to keep busy and, you know, not contact anyone. And I have this huge online platform with so many people watching, and people just want to help at the moment. So I opened up a GoFundMe and I talked about it online. My aunt shared her story, which was incredibly brave of her to do, you know, and hard for her to do. And people just started donating. I think people resonated with the message. We all understand the importance of it. And we raised €90,000, you know, it was mad. I never would have thought, you know, I set the goal for 5,000, and it just shows how generous people can be, even when, you know, we're struggling, people have lost jobs, we're all looking after our budget at the moment, and it just shows you how generous we can be.
And Louise, I suppose no one can prepare themselves for the tragedy of a loss like that. Were you aware of the work that Pieta House did before this tragedy?
You know, I knew about them, but I didn't know the extent of what they did. And, you know, I think that's kind of my job, is that, you know, if anyone feels like this, they know where to go. There are so many options, and there are free options. And I think, you know, unless you're put in this situation, sometimes you don't know. And I'm just trying to raise awareness and be vulnerable about my feelings, that people, you know, feel like they can talk about their own, and it doesn't feel like this far off thing that nobody talks about. I think there definitely was a stigma about it. I think we're all getting better, and I just want to keep the conversation open so that hopefully nobody else has to go through what my family has gone through. You know, I just want to do what I can to help.
Lee, we might bring you in at this point. Lee, you are the regional manager for the Greater Dublin area for Pieta House. Do you find that's a kind of an atypical response in terms of we all know or will be aware of Pieta House, but we don't exactly know the levels of service they provide, and on the flip side of that, we don't know how much those services cost to keep running. Hence, a campaign like Louise's, which results in her handing over €90,000, I'd imagine is invaluable to you guys.
Absolutely, Simon. You know, what Louise has done and the awareness that Louise has, you know, put out there for people who are struggling with their own mental health. The funds have really supported Pieta in being able to keep our service going, keep the doors open, and keep it free as well. And I suppose people don't realise the extent of what we do because people sometimes don't need to know until actually they have a lived experience themselves. So even having Louise talk about her own experience and her own, you know, issues around her lived experience through suicide has really helped, I think, other people from reaching out as well. And I suppose the Irish public, just to say, has blown me away, and us all at Pieta House, in relation to the generosity that they have shown through this particular pandemic, where people are struggling with their own mental health, but with their own finances as well, through, you know, maybe loss of job or whatever. So, I mean, we are so grateful to the Irish public and to Louise and every other fundraiser that has donated to us, because we know the work that we do does make a difference. And I suppose the other thing to say is that it is the public ultimately that keeps our doors open, because 80% of our funds comes from the public. That's a huge amount, and people don't realise that. I think people feel like, we're getting more support maybe from the government than we are, but look at, we're working on that as well.
That fundraising is so important, as you say. Nearly half, 48% of Irish people have admitted that they should take more time to talk about their mental health. I'm sure that figure wasn't surprising to you, but it is about keeping the lines of communication open in order to avoid tragedies like the one that Louise's family have experienced, isn't it, Lee?
Absolutely, and with that in mind, I suppose we've seen our waiting lists and the demand for our service is always rising. And with that in mind, since March this year, since the pandemic, we've had over 10,000 calls to our service. So with that in mind, we've increased our 24/7 helpline service as well. And also, as Louise said, we've introduced the video counselling. And I suppose that's really important, that we bridge a gap in this pandemic where we can meet a need that's really, really important for people who can't necessarily come to our centres. And while we had to lock down back in March, we are in the process of reopening our centres. And people will be scared, I suppose, to come into in-person counselling as well. So we have to, make sure that we are innovative and that we can reach as many people as we possibly can. And, going online is probably one of the most common things that we're finding ourselves in during this pandemic. And I suppose it has forced us to do stuff like this. It has catapulted us into, reaching out to be able to meet that need for the public.
And if there's viewers watching this morning who would really appreciate that video counselling, how does it work, Lee? And is it free of charge?
All of our services is free of charge. Our 24/7 helpline is free. Our face-to-face is free. Phone is free. Video is free. And our SBLO service, that's our suicide bereavement liaison service, where they go out to the communities of where there has been a suicide in the community, and they'll go out and they'll do a support. So all of our services free. And we, by what Louise has done, that's our hope, that we continue to be free. So if somebody wants to reach our services, what you can do is you can ring, if you're in crisis, you can ring the 1-800-247-247 helpline number. You can also go to our website to see what centre is nearest to you that is more suitable for your needs. And then we have people who will direct those individuals into the service, and they will go through the next steps for those people who are in crisis.
Well, listen, Lee, we appreciate your time. And Louise, thank you for coming on and sharing your stories. And well done on raising the amount that you raised for the incredible work that the guys at Pieta House do. Thanks for your time, ladies. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Louise. Thank you, Lee. Stay safe.
Thanks, Louise.
Now, to get in touch with Pieta House, you can call them for free on 1800 247 247, or indeed you can check out pieta.ie for more information.
Right, we'll take a quick break now. Join us for more Ireland AM shortly.